I'm just sharing this video from Mr David Icke, who, you know, is playing his usual games, and apparently what's been going on with the Senate and Kavanaugh's nomination as Supreme Court judge and Dr Blasey Ford's allegations, coupled with all the other witnesses that have come forward and historical therapist evidence and her passing the lie detector test, and even citing Mr Kavanaugh's friend as a witness and participant in the attack. This represents the end of justice and it's ruled by the mob. So, you know, where was your commentary about British children not receiving justice? Where's your commentary about that? About the fact that child victims of sexual crimes in Britain are systematically being silenced. The whole thing's covered up under the veils of secrecy provided by the family courts, which apparently a family court is a suitable venue for judging, you know, dealing with very, very serious crimes against children. You know, sexual crimes, organised crimes against children, even murder of children can, you know, all be covered up and pass through the family courts, according to the evidence provided by various official studies on what's happening with children in care in Britain. Now, I unearthed all the official studies on cared for children and abuse of children, both in the family home and in the care system, and I've discovered that actually a child in care can be murdered very easily and nobody will ever be held accountable. Okay, because, you know, for example, trafficked children, according to a recent study by Icke, trafficked children are disappearing from British care at, quote, an alarming rate. So Kent, for example, managed to lose every single trafficked child that it had taken into its care system. Every single one has vanished and never been seen again. Okay? Now, you're a person who likes to get on the world stage explaining that the royal family are shape-shifting lizards who drink blood. Alright, you're entitled to state that. You provide some circumstantial evidence, because certainly we don't have any photographs, do we, of them drinking blood. We haven't got any film footage. I haven't seen you bring forward any actual physical witnesses to say, yes, I was at a party and the royal family all transformed into lizards and started drinking blood. You have accused the royal family of this. You have written books about it and actually profited from your accusations against the royal family. And now here you are, sitting here, casting judgment against a victim survivor of sexual abuse, which we know that sexual attacks, assaults against women, females and even children in general are commonplace in this world, that the majority of victims do not report their crimes, simply because they do have no way of proving it, because there's no physical marks on them, and they know damn well that, you know, the two people that participated in that are just going to lie. We're talking about a 15-year-old girl, and we're talking about damages that stayed with her to such a degree that she ended up in therapy and then disclosed to her therapist years ago. And then we have all the witness testimonies stating the kind of person Kavanaugh was. We've got the yearbook, we've got his high school yearbook, and we do also have the written testimony unwittingly provided by Kavanaugh's friend, who actually refers to his friend, you know, he's tried to change his name to O Kavanaugh. His friend who liked to drink very heavily, and who very clearly had a very unhealthy attitude towards females, and clearly approached them in a predatory way. They were there to have fun with. And so, you know, you're talking about innocent until proven guilty. Well, according to you, okay, the royal family are guilty of various crimes. That's, you know, and I'm not saying that they're not, okay, because, you know, as far as I'm concerned, people have a right, if they feel there's evidence to support their opinion. We live in a society of free speech. We have a right, you have a right to say those things, to present any circumstantial evidence that you feel supports your theory, okay? But you go a step further, don't you? You actually get on the world stage saying these things, and you actually make money. You make money out of the fact of your accusations. There has been no trial in a court of law, so, you know, basically what are you doing? You have proclaimed the royal family guilty. You haven't given them the benefit of presuming that they're innocent. You have stated that they are guilty. They are guilty. Apparently they're Satanists, and they drink blood, and they change into lizards. Okay? So, you know, for somebody who's coming at me from that standpoint to witness you, David Icke, sat here now, casting judgment on Dr Blasey Ford, who courageously has stepped forward to protect the citizens of her nation from a man who she knows sexually assaulted her, and she thought that he might inadvertently kill her. Now, she didn't say he tried to kill me. She's not exaggerated. She's an intelligent, educated woman, and from her appearance, her testimony, a very humble, unassuming individual. Certainly she doesn't come across as, you know, an egotistical narcissist personality type. She quietly disclosed to a member of the Senate she didn't want any publicity, even as an adult now. But the allegations were leaked. You know, whatever you want to say about that, people are going to talk. People have a right. We're talking about a public figure who wishes to hold a seat, a lifelong position in a very public office that has immense power, even over every future presidency. And we're talking about somebody who has a track record, who is known to wish to deny women's rights of choice and autonomy over their own bodies. Now, when you couple that, because that's his ideology as an adult, when you look at his youth and the allegations as put forward by Dr Blasey Ford and now substantiated by 2 other women and also from other witnesses from the school, and the evidence as put forward through the yearbook and the biographical testimony of his friend cited as a witness, then, you know, really, why shouldn't people have an opinion about that? Why shouldn't people say, well, actually, she said these things and there's this evidence, and now we look at the man and, well, actually that's evidence to support the fact that this man is a misogynist who has a very unhealthy attitude to females, and females form half of the American population, over whom he shall be sitting as Supreme Court judge in supreme authority. So therefore that is a threat to the female citizens of America's national security. So this is very serious. This is very, very serious. Now, the point of contention here now, it isn't that Kavanaugh's being tried for the crimes of his youth. The accusation came, and Kavanaugh had a choice. He could have admitted to his crimes. He could have said, yes, I did do those things in my youth. I was under the age of 18. I was full of youthful arrogance. My mind was clouded with drunkenness. And as you know, once I'd graduated, I felt deeply ashamed and feel total upset and remorse and regret for my crimes, the things that I did while I was drunk as a youth. And I've changed, you know, I don't drink, and, you know, I really condemn all such behaviour, and I apologise. I take this opportunity now to Dr Blasey Ford to fully apologise for what I did to you as a teenager, and I would like to offer you support in whichever way possible. And unfortunately, you know, I was a victim of the consciousness of the world that I was born into, that at that time during my youth did have a very unhealthy attitude towards women. I was anti-feminist. I was railing against the feminist movement and had a very strong anti-feminist attitude. Now, in that case, he could have been forgiven and still accepted as Supreme Court judge, because he has shown himself to be honest, a person of integrity, and a person who has learned from the error of his ways. That is a Christian nation. Mr Kavanaugh is not a Christian. He has no faith in Christianity, because if he did, he would have confessed to his crimes in the knowledge that, yes, I'm living in a Christian nation. I think it would be unfair to judge me and to deny me for something that I did in my youth while I was extremely drunk and had actually grown up throughout the 60s and 70s in an era where, you know, I'd been indoctrinated that women were inferior. And I had been conditioned to view the rise of women's rights and feminism as an existential threat. I'd been brainwashed by the society that I was born into. I've now stepped out of that. I understand. I have full respect for women. I have 2 daughters, and I would be absolutely horrified if any such thing happened to my daughters, and I feel deeply ashamed. You see, all of these things express an ethical human being. Because we all make mistakes. We all, at some point in our youth, have believed strange things that the world has told us, you know, unquestioningly. But we learn, don't we? We learn from our youth. Now, we don't all commit crimes, the kind of crimes that Kavanaugh is alleged to have been committed by Dr Blasey Ford. I'm inclined to accept Dr Blasey Ford's testimony as honest. She has not got a track record of wanting to deny males' rights of autonomy. She has not got a track record of getting together with other women in order to attack men. There's nothing in the yearbook about her making derogatory statements about males among her fellow pupils at high school. She is not standing for a position of public office. She's an educated professional woman who is a victim survivor of a crime. A very, very common crime. A crime which is vastly underreported. And a crime which damages women and men as well. Male children have equally been victims of sexual assault as well. And unfortunately, those damages, you know, you're talking about the mothers, the future mothers of the next generation being sexually damaged. Well, you know, a baby is conceived in that woman's sexuality. A baby comes out of that sexuality. A woman's sexuality is a key part of humanity, okay? Without menstruation, there would be no people. And yet all of these things have been traditionally cast as a shame and a curse against females. The very fact that they menstruate, the most vital aspect of our existence, menstruation, the womb, the menstruating womb, has been denigrated as something evil and a curse from God. And actually, to own a womb means you're an inferior human being. And if elitist, arrogant youths, 17-year-old youths like Kavanaugh, wishes to fuck about with you on the strength that you have a womb, and he wants to fuck about with it, No. It's time that mentality fucked off. And we don't want it sitting a Supreme Court judge, okay? Now, the main point of contention here is that he has lied. And at the very least, we know that he's lied about his drinking. He's still that same, all the evidence, his own testimony, tells us in no uncertain terms that that man, now in his 50s, has not changed from the days of his 17-year-old youth. He's still got the same arrogance, the same lack of respect. He's angry because how dare this woman come forward now? It was years ago. He was only 17. No, of course he isn't going to admit to it. She just wants to stop him getting into power. That was his right. That's where he was headed. And now here she come to try and snatch it away from him. And she's being supported by these Democrats who don't want him in anyway. And why? Because he's a misogynist and a national security threat to America's female population, regardless of whether they're Republicans or Democrats or whatever. And that's the fact of it. And it is treason. It is high treason for a supposedly democratic and lawful nation, allegedly Christian, to knowingly place a person who's committed perjury as Supreme Court judge. That is an act of treason, because you're talking about perjury on oath. And everybody who attends a court of law and makes a statement is required to make a statement on oath as the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And that man has perjured himself on oath. He's broken the very oath on which the whole premise of the court is built. The very foundation of it is on the strength of that oath of truth before God. And this is a very, very serious matter. So, David Icke, I don't know what you're about. I think now I am making up my mind now. Because I was prepared to give you the benefit of the doubt. I did subscribe to you. I thought, yeah, you know, at the end of the day, some of his statements are quite outlandish, but, you know, he is sharing truth. But no, I understand exactly what you do. You tell the people the truth, and what you do is, you like somebody who gets Lego bricks and, you know, makes something else with it all. Takes it somewhere else. Never gives any solutions. Never gives any guidance. But is profiting. You have directly profited from the crimes and evils of this world because you sell it. You sell it in your books. And now here you are, speaking out in favour of a perjurer and a sex offender as a victim. He's a victim of crime. Oh, he's been presumed guilty. What's happened? What's happened? It's the end of justice. It's the rule by the mob. A man has been presumed guilty. Well, I'm sorry. Men of this world, males of this world, who think that they can treat women like sex objects and that they can do whatever they like to women and just get away with it because, yeah, show me the evidence. Come on, let's see the evidence. And that woman's emotional injuries that have been recorded by a professional therapist are not counted as evidence. Yes, because that is the difference, isn't it? The material and physical split. The material and spiritual split. The psychological damages, oh, well, they're just all made up because you can't actually see them, can you? Well, you can. Her husband knows them. Her children probably knows them. She knows them. Her friends know them. Oh, but you can't see them, can you? You see? No, this physical, spiritual split is going to end, okay? Because psychological damages are every bit as real as physical damages. And that is one point that I have made repeatedly about abuse in children, that it is high time that this society started understanding that children are not just physically growing human beings, they are psychologically, spiritually developing human beings. Because our consciousness, our brain, is what makes us human. And when children are suffering abuse that may leave no physical signs of damage, but those psychological damages are there, and if they're left untreated, those children suffer in adult life. So you, David Icke, have come out on the material, haven't you? You've come out on the side of the material. And you cockeyed, because you can't accept equally the spiritual, you see, because you are part of the divide and rule mentality, and that is exactly what you're doing here. You are upholding the principles of divide and rule, that, oh yes, we can just dismiss the psychological, emotional evidence as recorded by therapists. What are these therapists then? Are they all just a fantasy? Is their whole education system, are they just studying a fantasy? Nobody's really emotionally injured and traumatised for life by sexual assaults committed against them when they were 15. It doesn't totally disturb them. And as Dr Blasey Ford said, you know, when she was asked what was the worst point of that, even though she'd said she thought he might inadvertently kill her with his hand over her mouth and he's trying to tear her clothes off, she was treated like an animal. How do you think that feels to a 15-year-old girl, loved child of her parents, grown up into, according to the evidence, in quite a wealthy, affluent community where she's treated with respect and kindness and love all of her life, and suddenly two of her friends who she trusted are treating her like an animal? And she said the most hurtful part of that was that they were laughing at her, that they were having fun. And that is what so disturbed Dr Blasey Ford at 15 and to this very day, to realise that the ruling consciousness of her country, from the most affluent young men who are set to become Supreme Court judges and senators and congressmen, considered her as a female nothing more than a plaything, something to have fun with. They had no respect for her consciousness. I have suffered sexual abuse. I know what it's like. I suffered sexual abuse for the first 17 years of my life. I know the embarrassment, the pain, the shame, the guilt, the damages of it. And, like you, I have also had a deeply profound spiritual experience of witnessing a golden light being. Though I don't think you actually did witness a golden light being, did you? You did not receive the message of universal law of abundance in compassion through an energy of bliss. So, but apparently your experience gives you the right as a man to parade around the world, you know, appear on BBC, Terry Wogan, and have hordes of people around you, because you've got that much credibility, because you've got a penis, haven't you? But, you know, a working class female survivor of abuse like myself, well, you know, my spiritual experience doesn't really count for anything. In fact, it's proof that I'm mad. I can be scorned and ridiculed and persecuted, you know. And I'm not saying you weren't scorned and ridiculed, but let's face it, for everyone that scorned you, 10 more came forward to support you. And you're living a lovely life, aren't you, on the proceeds of it all. Myself, I'm living in, you know, on the poverty line, basically. Because, you know, I don't just talk the talk, I actually walk the walk in life. And that is why I can confront you, David Icke. I can call you out, okay? And simultaneously offer the hand of amnesty and forgiveness. You know, do you agree with what I'm saying? Are you interested in my experience of light being? Would you like to grow and develop as a human being? And understand that when it comes to sexual offences, evidence comes in the form of victim survivor testimony and the credibility of that, and whether there's anything to substantiate such allegations by way of, you know, evidence from the person's past, their past history, what other people got to say. Are there any other victim witnesses? These are what counts as evidence. Reports from a therapist. Dr Ford disclosed to that therapist. Dr Ford exhibited symptoms of the crime that also show the seriousness of the crime, that it is still with her in adult life. It has damaged her. It has upset her worldview, her perspective of who she is as a person, what kind of world she's been born into. Has all been thrown into disarray by two people who she thought were her friends, who she thought respected her, and she equally respected them, and she trusted them, only to find out that no, that was a veneer. Actually, left to their own devices, these people are monsters who view her as a prey and have absolutely no respect for her. And to this very day, that man, he's done exactly what she knew he would have done when she was 15, lied about it, and she would have had no proof. And everybody would have been, what has happened in the world arena today would have been happening in her community, in her school, during that period, and none of the rest of the world would have known about it. And if it had come up now while he's waiting to be Supreme Court judge, it would have been, yeah, she came out with those allegations years ago and they were disproven. There was no evidence. Yeah. We know how it works. And as a female, I am sick to death of this misogynist society, because it isn't patriarchal at all. It is entirely oligarchical. Only oligarchs are misogynists. Okay? And that is why they're misogynists, because they know damn well they've got to keep that female crushed, because given half a chance, she will raise a patriarchy, a true patriarchy. And that is what it's all about, the control of women, to stop her from raising that youth to a patriarch, a true father. And that is what the oligarchs are terrified of. And they know that the matriarchy has the power to do it, because the patriarchy arises directly from a matriarchy, because it is the woman's manufacture of the next generation. that creates a father. Okay, a father is a father the moment that baby is delivered into this world. The moment that baby is conceived, he is a father. It is something that happens externally from him, but he is a father. And the true father's spirit is what is being oppressed here. And Dr Blasey Ford, and like many, many women of myriad faiths, ethnicities, class, they know there is no father. The father figure, the true father, is every bit as oppressed as the women, the females of this world, and the children. You know, we're talking about an oligarchy that judges its children as minor human beings, okay? So, you know, you want to talk about innocent until proven guilty. Well, how is it that all our children have been judged guilty from birth? Apparently they're all born in original sin, okay? That's the fact of it. By this ruling oligarchical consciousness that has judged them minor human beings. Unimportant, insignificant. Why don't you talk about that, David Icke, instead of rising up in such indignation for the likes of Kavanaugh, a perjurer and a misogynist? So, I'm going to leave it there. I hope that you change your mind. I hope that you understand that my comments here, you know, they're not an attack. They are a defence of the true male human beings, the true father. They are a defence of females and children. And they are a defence of our rights to be governed by people that we trust and who do not commit perjury on oath, okay? That is a defence. And I hope that you, unlike Kavanaugh, have the humility and the humanity to accept sense and sanity, and to have the ability, the power to be able to admit that, you know what, perhaps I was a bit over hasty in making my comments. This person who says that she's witnessed a light being actually has spoken some truths here. I would like to meet that person. I would like to discuss this light being experience with her. Maybe we can learn from each other, because I've realised my perspective was a bit out there. Because you see, genuine seekers of truth, actually, they're not usually seeking the truth. They are usually have a concern about a problem, and they wish to solve the problem. And it is in trying to solve the problem that they discover the truth. You see, that's how I discovered the truth. That's how I came to witness a light being, because I was actually trying to address this problem of the battle between male and female, and why it even exists. Because, you know, I grew up in a home watching my mother being battered, and my brothers and sisters, and myself being battered and sexually abused by this madman who apparently was our father, Daddy, whom the police could not arrest because he was allowed to do what he liked in his own home as head of the household. So, you know, I wanted to understand. I wasn't out to attack anybody. I just wanted to understand, because I felt there was a problem and it needed addressing. And it was in trying to address that, trying to understand the problem, that I had my experiences. So I hope that my experiences now is a guidance to you. And I have, yes, I am upset at the things you've said, because you are a person of influence. Pete, you've got how many thousands, millions of followers, and what you say has a great influence on people. And I think at the moment, what you've said is detrimental and negative, and is not helping anything except to further the divides. And we need unity now, because we are not going to save our planet and the children, the child of humanity, by, you know, engaging in warring factions and strengthening the divides. What we need now is unity, social unity, towards establishing a fair and just, humane law and way of life that places the child as VIP. Okay, so thank you to everyone for taking time to listen, and as I say, you know, respect to all who can embrace the truth and embrace our humanity.